Welcome, everybody, to another session of Conscious Gatherers. The ladies are in the house, and we have some very interesting subject matter for tonight. So I'll let Bev bring up that and introduce what we're doing. And sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and towards the end, if you have questions, please ask them. Bev?
All right. Welcome, everybody. And this is episode 25, and today is the equinox. So it's September 22nd, 2020. So I don't know if there's a lot of people that celebrate on the equinox. So we've had a very eventful day and some events within our, what do we want to call it?
Here this last week.
Yeah, this last week some things have come through, and we're going to share those with you. And what we're going to call this episode is Living in an Illusory World. And we're going to talk about the light bomb. So just hold on. We'll discuss that in just a bit, but we're going to start out about living in an illusory world. The other day when we were meditating, I kept getting the word illusory. That's one word I really don't use, but and in fact, we looked it up. Like, what does that exactly mean? And it's basically based on illusion, not real. This can mean lots of different things. And I went further in looking this up, and some of the synonyms for illusory are illusory, imagery, misleading, deceptive, sham. So this can apply to a lot of different things in our what I call our physical life, what's happening in the world, and beyond. And because we're consciousness and everything is within, and so these bodies are a part of our consciousness. So these things we have touched about in other episodes. But keep that in mind. We'll see where this conversation goes. We're not totally sure, but we do have a few things that we wanted to bring up. So I'm going to introduce Ms. Royse here, and she wants to talk about some things that we had talked about earlier today. And Donna is right here also, and Terry, you can jump in too. So go right ahead, Royse.
Okay, when you're talking about the word illusory, that brought to mind with me our children, and it can relate to many other things as well. But what our children are being exposed to, you know, when you see things, when you experience things, and when you say things, it's too late after the deed is done. It's a whole lot easier if you are more of a guardian of your thoughts, your words, and your actions, instead of being caught up in reaction to what's already going on. Like with our children, you know, I see that there are some good things that could come from us being drawn together more as families, because first of all, the parents are finding out what's going on inside their kids' brains, what they're thinking about, and what they're being exposed to. So it's like a wake-up call for the parents to take more of an active role in their child's formative years. Let me see, what else could I say about that?
Well, one thing we had talked about earlier is that it's easier to be in the formative years than try to undo something that's been said, because you tend to carry that along with you.
That's right. It gets embedded, and it's hard to erase it. You know, once you see a thing, or once you hear a thing, you know, it's in there, and so we have to be aware of what it is that we're letting into our thoughts and into our consciousness.
Well, just to the conversation with us gals that were mind me calling you gals, in the last few hours is we found out, I mean, just talking about how many things that would come up that were told to us years ago. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, or it's really not that. But sometimes some of these things that we hold on to and we start thinking of ourselves as less than. And that's a bunch of bunk. Mm-hmm. And it's time for us to realize it's a bunch of bunk. It's a sham. It's deceptive. It's delusory. That's illusory. That word, makes a lot of sense. And I think we're going to probably hear it a little more often.
And I would add, too, that the more we can sit and be quiet, or be quiet and be the witness with our souls, be the witness to our thoughts and our emotions, and see what's triggering what, and the more in tune we get with ourselves and the universe, and put out the prayer or the desire that you want to be clear, we want to be clear of all these imprints we've had, then the more you become a witness and watch yourself during the day, your thoughts, your emotions and everything, you start to see more how we're patterned, and then just by the desire to get rid of those patterns, we learn how to let them go. And sometimes just sitting there and meditating and asking for the light and the higher energy to come in from our higher soul, or whoever you pray to, just ask the energy to come in to help cleanse, and you can sit and feel like you're in a waterfall. That's one way to do it. Or a light fall, whatever feels good, and just let it wash through you, just knowing it's going to help get rid of any of those dark corners that are governing us or affecting us that we're not even aware of. So just by putting your intent on it, I have found. I took training in psychology in college. That was my degree, and there's many, techniques and things, and there are some available techniques, but also just sitting with spirit really is amazing. So, and then this light bomb that came in, if you want to move to that.
Well, let's you got a couple more things.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought you might jump in here. One thing, Terry, just a moment. Just one thing, because you reacted to this. One of the things I received the other day was you have an R being smothered. So, all right, go ahead, Terry.
Say that again. Repeat that, Bev.
Sure. You have an R being smothered.
You have and are
being smothered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I remember you saying that now.
Smothered with all these illusory things. Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's interesting, because I am having issues with feeling that the last couple of weeks. Some days worse, some days not so bad. I think I explained it to you ladies as, I don't remember, confined or something. But it really, what you just said of the smothering, it feels more like it. Anyway, so that's going on. But let's get back to this reality and non-reality stuff. So it's not just the mystics and the psychics and the spiritual people that are talking about that everything that we see is really illusionary. It's not there. It's a perception that we're putting on something. The scientists have known this for quite a while, and they're actually coming out with it. I mean, one question you ask yourself, does this tree make noise when it falls if no one's there to hear it? So that's a scientific question that's pondered. What would you answer to that, ladies? I've never asked you that question.
Does it make a sound?
You can take the fifth also.
We can take the fifth. It's just something to ponder. I would say, in this physical reality, of course it makes a sound.
Okay. And that's what most people respond. But based on scientific study, on watching objects, through a microscope and stuff, when they're not being observed, there's no motion, there's no movement. It's the act of us observing it that causes the motion or reaction of whatever they're observing. Otherwise, it's not moving. So we're the cause of it, and therefore it's our perceptions that's seeing that. So the answer to the riddle Does the tree make noise if no one's there to hear it? Answer is no. The tree's not even falling because no one's observed it, and there's no sound. We create our environment. We create everything in our environment. Therefore, if we're not there or creating it or observing it, it's not happening. Now, physicality seems real because we have a collective consciousness, and we're all bought into the collective consciousness. As one of you ladies said earlier, we're conditioned early on to have these perceptions that these things are real and happening. Everybody sees the tree. If you're all there together, you see the tree or whatever. So this is what the scientists are saying. And so I leave it to the scientists. I mean, I believe that what I see, I've created. I've created in my mind, and I've decreed it, and then it has happened. And that's what Neville talks a lot about. But there's another guy. There's a guy named Donald Hoffman. I think we talked about this earlier, Bev. He's got a book, and he's arguing. The title of the book is The Case Against Reality, subtitle, Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes. Let me read just a brief thing from the inside cover. Challenging leading scientific theories that claim that our senses report back objective reality, cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman argues that while we should take our perception seriously, we should not take it literally. How can it be possible that the world we see is not objective reality? And how can our senses be useful if they're not communicating the truth? Hoffman grapples with these questions and more over the course of his eye-opening work. So I highly recommend anybody. It's not an easy read. It's not one of those novels you're going to go into, but it's a very fascinating read. Again, it's the title's The Case Against Reality, Why Evolution Hid the Truth from Our Eyes by Donald Hoffman, Hoffman. Highly recommend it. I'll leave it to the scientists to show that what we're seeing is what we're perceiving, but it's not real. Back to you, ladies.
Well, I have something to say about that. I would have to say that I disagree with the scientists because in my own observation of nature, I've found that the trees are very conscious of each other because I've seen them interacting with each other by way of observing their auras and stuff. Now, were their auras interacting only because I was watching? No, I don't believe that at all. I understand what you're saying, and I understand what they're saying, but I think just because there's not a human observing, I do not agree, because the thing of consciousness, it runs throughout. It is the canvas upon which we are painted. It is the thing which is the animator within each of us, not just humans, but all living creatures, all living beings, including trees, fish, grass, you name it. Everything. So, yeah, scientists, I'm sorry, but I disagree.
I agree with you, Royce. I was going to let it go, but I do, because if there were no people on the planet, the trees could still be falling and making their sounds. Just because we don't hear it doesn't mean it's not happening. So, I mean, a lot happened on the planet before humans were even here, and we can't say it didn't happen just because we weren't here to hear it or see it. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the tree is consciousness, and living in a tree is, talking about trees. So I'm glad you brought this up, Terry, because it really makes this an interesting conversation that we're having here. And that is, within the tree are a lot of living consciousness. That makes sense? So you've got the insect world. You've got name them. Some of the minerals.
Moss.
Yeah.
All kinds of. You have plants, algae. You have all kinds of little creatures. Yeah.
And then you get the fairy kingdom that in there.
Birds.
Yeah. Birds. All kind and different animals. They're all consciousness. So now, are they exploring their own consciousnesses? I would say yes. And would they exist without that consciousness? No. Even people that say robots don't have consciousness, but then I even question that. They do. I mean, everything, to me, everything is of source.
Well, now let me stop.
Not be.
You're talking apples and oranges. Consciousness is not physicality. So you're putting one thing of consciousness. I agree, everything has a consciousness, and then you're putting the physicality as that they're connected, and that's not true. We're conscious beings, whether we're physical or not.
I disagree. I disagree.
So only a physical being can be conscious?
No, the consciousness is everywhere. It is the fabric for everything.
You can be conscious and not physical, because the consciousness is the everything. That's what I said.
If that's what your perspective is, but we're mostly space. So
our physical body.
We're only
our physical body. So if you're just looking at that space in between the membranes of the cells, you're not seeing anything. Does that mean that it's not there? It's just, we've opened a
can of worms.
A big can of worms.
And I think that's great, but you got to remember, consciousness is what is the all. Okay, consciousness is the creator, and the I am, which is aware of being conscious, is the created. And therefore,
I don't think
that's
that you
where
can
we are like
separate
our Father and one, because our Father created us through consciousness, and we are conscious of ourselves, and we create our world around us. Very simple. The physicality has nothing to do with it. We are the ones that create physicalness. Each individual creator creates the physical that they encounter.
Okay, just to take that a little step further, I agree, and that it depends upon who we are. And to me, that's the trees, that's the animals, that's the moss, that's the fairy kingdom, that's whatever, a mineral kingdom. Everything has consciousness. So, are they creating? They're creating what they want to create, so we can all, like on this earth, for instance, so we can all work together.
Well, what I can answer, Bev, is I believe that all things are living, and they have what we're saying consciousness now, and because they're part of the creation of, and that's what the creator is consciousness. However, I'm not sure. Now, I think some do, dolphins and stuff, but the other things, I'm not sure if they're aware of their consciousness. I can't address that with any authenticity at all. I'll acknowledge that they're alive and they're part of a living creation, but whether they are aware of it or not, I can't answer that.
Could I share a little story?
Yeah, whatever.
Where I used to live, there was this beautiful big tree in the backyard. I had it thinned out, and people did a pretty severe job of thinning it out. And I kept watching its aura, and its aura was very withdrawn and very thin, and I really worried about it. Now, back up in time about 10 years when I first moved there was this oak tree in the backyard, and it was really close to the house. It was infringing on the space of a gate, and I was just irritated that tree was there because it was just in the wrong place, and it should have been taken out a long time ago. Well, kept watching this tree that had been thinned, and I just happened to be watching at the right time because I saw the tree that I had wished was not there. I saw its aura billow out toward the thinned out tree and shared its life force with that tree. After that, the thinned tree grew stronger and stronger exponentially. It did very well. and the tree that I had not wanted to be there was getting weaker and weaker.
Wow.
And was losing limbs, and eventually I had to have it removed because it was going to fall on the house if I didn't. Now, I thought about that a long time, and I thought, wow, if I had only known about the consciousness, that the feeling, obviously, that the trees had for each other, and the willingness for that one tree to give so much of its life force that it gave so much it was dying. If I had only known about that, perhaps I would have had different feelings toward that one tree, and it could have survived too. But I didn't know. So that story was all for me to be able to observe that consciousness and how nature interacts with itself. It was truly an awe-inspiring thing for me to witness, and it actually brings me to tears to think how we cut the trees down so many times, not giving a second thought. It's just because we don't want it there. Mm-hmm. It's in our way, get out of my way. I want to put a house here. Yeah. Not giving any thought that tree is conscious. It is a living being as much as I am, if not more. Mm-hmm. So I simply adore the consciousness in things that people just, they don't know it's there, mm-hmm. So that's what I have to say about that.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you. And it just says that consciousness is in everything, and it creates a reality that we see, and we're doing it together. Reality that we see. And we talked about real and reality a lot in the last about every session that we have on our podcast. And we're realizing that we're living in an illusory world, and we make real what we want to make real, but that, to me, that means all kingdoms that are here present on this earth and beyond, because we do communicate with a lot of beyond this planet. We've had a lot of instances just with us. So it's really it's been interesting just to see that. I put "see" in quotes because we definitely can see them through our third eye, but not with our physical eyes. Occasionally we do see some physical stuff going on. It's like, whoa. All right. Do you want any more on that, Terry? And then we'll go on to the light bomb.
No, I think we've done with that subject quite well. And we can
all right. Well, thank you, because I love how this all fits together. So thank you all, because if you don't bring that stuff up, and then it brings out more and more, and it's pretty amazing how this all works out. All right. But last Thursday, which would have been on September the 17th, actually, I think Donna was talking with you, Terry, on the phone, and so I start seeing something. I'm like, what the heck, And Terry, you had to go on with work, and so we continued tuning in. And I'm calling this a light bomb, B-O-M-B, because what I saw in the center of the United States, this thing was huge, maybe 3 to 4 states large, and I saw it just, this light just come down in this big, like cylinder or whatever, and it's just like a bomb, just boom, and hit the ground. And I went, what the heck? And then we just watched it. And so Donna and I are watching this, and then we called you, Miss Royse here, and then Terry, we told you about it. Well, I'm telling you about it now. But we saw light. It looked like a river of light, and it flowed east. And it was maybe like take in 2 or 3 states, or probably at least 3 states, 3 or 4 states, and flowed east. And I watched it. It flowed out over into the Atlantic Ocean, and then it just went down into the ocean, and like a waterfall. And I don't know. Obviously, it went inside the earth, but I was like, wow. And in one area, I noticed it started. My attention was drawn to one area, but I wanted to watch it all the way out, and then I think both of you were seeing it in that one area, and you might want to explain without saying where that area is, but explain what you were seeing.
Well, my attention was drawn back from, I was out in the Atlantic Ocean with this, and then I was pulled back to a certain part of the country that needs a lot of healing with things going on under the surface particularly. So was hovered over there pretty strongly for about a half an hour, and then working with it, continuing on after, and angelic beings came in and like rainbow light to help the beings under the ground that were doing certain things that needed healing, and with all the things that go on there that affect the rest of the planet, that light was going on there to help release some of this illusion on the planet that is controlled by things going on underneath the ground by certain beings. So anyway, this light bomb is all about bringing in more light and more of the true reality beyond the illusion, so that also it can help us get rid of our patterns. I mean, that's one thing, relating it back to the beginning of our discussion. With the more light that we have saturating into all of ourselves, our consciousness and our bodies, our emotions, then everything comes to the light. So it means more will be coming to the light of what's going on that people are quibbling about. You know, more truth will come out, and more love quotient will come out. So it's really a very promising time, and this is just the beginning. I mean, we get different amounts of this light coming into the planet because you can't saturate with people with too much at one time. They'll go crazy, basically. I'm saying that just because that pushes the dark out too, and you know, everybody's ready for a certain amount at a certain time. So anyway, then I had a big vision of a great big light that's going to come in October over the whole planet that's humongous. So, and saturate into everything and everybody. So that'll be interesting. And this is like a prelude to it going into the center of the country. We saw it going into Missouri and out around Kansas and those states, and like the heartland. So, and then certain areas that kind of need to sink out were appearing to sink out. I'll just leave it there, where dark consciousness was centered. So, but that'll be done in the highest way, however. So anyway, it's like a meltdown of the illusion is how I look at it, and just more of the true reality that we consider true reality, stemming from love and creation and consciousness. Yeah, I guess that's all I have to say about it right now.
All right. Well, it was definitely interesting when watching this, and it doesn't mean that the Western states, United States, the rest of the world, everybody is affected on this planet. Even though I saw the river of light going east, but you know, I think it keeps on going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it went down into the ocean, so it really went down into in the planet.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's like a big wave. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Bev,
and maybe the East needs it more.
Mhm.
As you three know, and you know, part of what we're here to bring around is that Mother Earth, who's a living being too, is moving from third density, has been, into fourth and fifth density. And taking along with us those that will resonate with that and want to go. It's all choice. No one's left behind if they don't want to be. And what your vision is, what I see, is just affirming that that's happening. And what the light is doing, there's a lot of secrecy in our experience in everywhere in the world. And that secrecy is there usually for controlling factors. And the light's coming in now to release the secrecies so that the public can see what's been going on and basically make the change in their own minds. You know, we're done with that, and we're moving to a cooperative type of, you know, thing that we're here for. That's why you see all the movements going. That light is just taking the secrecy. Now, people call that maybe darkness and stuff. It's just people that would like to keep things secret, because it gives them power. And the Fifth Encounters, the Encounters of the Fifth Kind by Dr. Greer is this example of it. Our government has known way back in the 20s that we've been visited by UFOs. Other entities, other beings from other places have been here. We've known it. All the top people know it, but they're afraid that it would release their control over us by allowing this information to be set forth. Those in the community, even the scientific community, the government community, all that stuff's known. So this light is a positive, good thing that's emanating and getting rid of secrets so that the public and people that aren't aware, that aren't awake, let's say, will become awake and know. And then, it's hard to make a choice on what you want to do or move if you don't have all the facts, So the light's bringing the facts to us to bear so people can make their choices on where they want to move and what they want to do.
Here. Very good. Thank you. Yeah. We've been calling it the Great Awakening. The grand plan is, that was used in what our plan, your plan 2020, our plan 2020. All of that is in motion. And even though we are going through what we're calling hard times with everything that's going on, that we're waking up to where the light wasn't shining, and now the light's shining to, as you say, to expose all this, and we're making our choices like, whoa, this is not the way I visioned the world. And I remember as a child, and how I thought war was really stupid. Still think that. And I just thought it was something of old. And then I grew up and thought, what the heck, So I think that's how we're all going to feel, that it makes no sense. And we're all in this together, and we've gone through this duality program, all these programs that some of these dark forces don't want to let go of because they don't want us empowered and knowing what tremendous beings we are. So it's like all of us to stand up straight and speak our truth, and not hide from it anymore. And many of us have hid from it because we don't want to offend somebody, and that's a bunch of BS.
But there's a part of that we're not talking about, and that's the responsibility. I think we as a civilization a while back stepped out of taking responsibility for our own lives, for how we want things to proceed, and so what does that do? That leaves everything open for somebody else to step in and take it over and do what they want to do. So these times are merely showing us that, okay, we made a mistake. Now we're waking up because we're seeing the consequences of not taking responsibility. So lesson learned, hopefully, so we can get on with taking responsibility for our own actions, our own thoughts, our own lives, so we can live out this beautiful experience of life.
Amen.
We're moving out of our confinement. And Terry, you mentioned confinement and being smothered, and we're moving out of that. And we talked about letting go of the shackles. All the same thing.
What would be a great topic, and we'll see if this. But I like what Royce said about responsibilities, and I think that's what the light's bringing to us, Royce, because it's hard to know we're responsible when we've been conditioned and thrown into a system from birth. The educational system, all the way through college, get a good job, go to college, get an education, get a good job so you can work for the man. Well, where's the entrepreneurship? Where's the hey, be creative? That's not the road that we were sent down. So, that would be a great topic to talk about maybe. I think you're right. Once people realize that they're responsible for their world and what's going on, don't let anybody else be responsible. And if you were, this COVID-19 wouldn't have hit. There are people that are prospering in COVID-19, and they're the ones that are helping people, not hoarding what they have. They're helping people knowing that that's the only way it should be, is cooperative. But I like what you said, Royce.
Thank you.
Well, even I think a couple of episodes ago, we had talked about COVID as an internal debilitation, is what we allow into our bodies. So, this whole discussion today is really that too, and it's our parenting, or even if it's beyond parents, what we say to one another.
Yeah.
And if it's not nice, and it's coming from your own self-ego, it's like, well, wait a minute, because it sticks with you, and it's really hard to undo that. And, I've been through it, and I called it my dark night of the soul, and it's like, and finally I just said to myself, this is a bunch of BS, to the word.
Yeah.
and said, hey, I am a master. We all are masters. So it's time for us to...
COVID-19 is playing out on a lot of different levels. And I think the light you talked about coming in the center of the U.S. and dispersing, it's going to bring all of those different elements of COVID-19 to bear. And, right. We don't have time to go into that now, but, that could be, again, another topic for another night. But anyway, ladies, I think we've had a great session here. Unless you have something that's burning you need to get out, we probably should say if anybody has any questions, now would be the time to ask. If there's anybody on live with us, which I don't think there is, but there might be.
Well, all right. I was going to say that COVID-19 has actually opened up a huge door of opportunity for us to wake up.
Absolutely, that's just playing on that plane. Yeah.
In the first place, so we can't point a finger at it and see it as something evil. There may be some who are using it in an evil way, and every experience that could come off of that, but it's an opportunity for us to learn.
Since we're on this for a minute here, did you ladies, Bev might have, and because I know she goes to the site quite a bit, the Federation of Light had a channel from someone, I saved it, I'm sure, that channeled COVID-19. And it was quite interesting.
Interesting.
Of how it was created from its standpoint and what it's evolved into and done. So that's on the site of Federation of Light. I'll go look and see if I can get that link, and maybe you could post that in our YouTube here to have someone go look at it. Quite interesting. And I'm sure that some of our listeners are going to go, "You're crazy. What do you mean COVID-19 was talking to somebody?" Well, COVID-19 is a living thing, remember. And it's experienced itself from creation to where it is, creation of itself to where it is now, and it's very interesting to listen to it talk about itself. Did you see that, Bev?
I did. I sure did. Yeah, it was very interesting. I think that was through Matthew's message.
Yeah,
maybe.
Some of them I save, and most of them I just delete, but I saved that one.
You're talking about being consciousness. So, that even has the consciousness in and of itself. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have talked a long time, and we could go on for another hour. Easy. We'll let everybody have a break, and we'll continue in 2 weeks.
So, our next session will be, and Bev, make sure I'm right, October 6th, I believe, is the 2 Tuesdays from tonight. Boy, the year's going by, isn't it? So, everybody, have fun, enjoy your life, be happy, and do whatever makes you feel happy. So until our next session, we say good night and take care.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.